Hi everyone and welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Lord Jesus Christ is coming. Every day we are looking at some of the great signs that are happening around us.
Today, we are going to look at some of the end-time signs happening in Europe. The paradox of Hitler's culture, as yet another culture revival begins in Europe. It is high time to understand its origin.
Adolf Hitler was one of history's most evil mass murderers. Yet during his life, he was an individual of culture. For example, he claimed that only by understanding the music of Richard Wagner could you understand the Third Reich. On a larger scale, only by understanding its culture can you understand what Hitler was trying to revive, the Holy Roman Empire.
Hitler, Frederick the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Maximilian I, Otto the Great, Charlie Magne, and many other European leaders have had two things in common: their love for culture and their love for conquest.
European culture includes not only its foods and its arts, but also centuries of heavy influence on the Catholic Church, headquartered in Rome. The Church has affected not just the people's deepest belief about life and the afterlife, but also everything from political policy to architecture. Time after time, this church has used its influence to align with political leaders and resurrect the Holy Roman Empire.
This Christian ideology formed the foundation of his belief and is evident in everything he did. Though other Germanic traditions and socialistic concepts factored into Hitler's everyday agenda, the Catholic institution and this perverted view of Christianity formed the basis of his idea and heavily influenced his goals. Mein Kampf was edited by a Catholic priest. Hitler's hierarchical government also was patterned after that of the Catholic Church. Heinrich Himmler, though he is said to have later distanced himself from his traditional Catholic upbringing, modeled the SS after the principles of Catholic Jesuit order. He revitalized the Holy Roman Empire Brotherhood of soldier priests called Teutonic Knights. The Nazis also initiated a large-scale effort to rewrite the New Testament to prove that Jesus Christ was actually Aryan and that the Jews are his primary enemies. Certainly, there were different beliefs and divisions in Hitler's and Himmler's ideologies. There are also different ideologies within the Catholic Church. Some support Hitler, others did not, but in the end, they all shared the culture of the Holy Roman Empire. Before Hitler became a dictator, he studied art. Once he rose to power in Germany and became a mass murderer, his passion for culture remained. His ruinous regime included a vast cultural program. His effort to revive European culture is vividly documented in Hitler's Holy Relics by Sidney D. Kirkpatrick. In fact, his passion for culture sparked his motivation. It all started in Vienna, Austria. In Vienna, Hitler came to believe that God had replaced the Jews with the Germans and the Holy Roman Empire. He learned it in that cultured city, looking at all those crown jewels and the opulence of the Habsburgs. This was a time in which the greatest change I was ever to experience took place in me. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf concerning his time in Vienna. From a feeble cosmopolite, I had turned into a fanatical anti-Semite. He also wrote, to me the big city appeared as the personification of incest. The longer I stayed in the city, the more my hatred increased against the mixture of foreign nations that began to eat up this side of old German culture. Hitler said, in no other German city is there a strong connection between the past and the present as in Nuremberg, the old and the new imperial city. This city, which the German Reich deemed fit to defend the regalia behind its walls, had regained ownership of these symbols, which testifies to the power and the strength of the old Reich, and its manifestation of German power and the greatness in a new German Reich. Touching the crown, he said, the German people have declared themselves the bearers of 1,000-year crown. Hitler's fascination with the Holy Roman Empire spread throughout Germany. Millions traveled to Nuremberg to view the holy relics. An impressive movie production aimed to tell the Jews' whole story, but it was interrupted by the Allies' invasion. In his vision, Hitler saw Nuremberg as the center of his resurrected empire. He wanted to establish the city as a shining light of cultural glory. In the vast projects of transforming and renovating the city, Hitler also sought to eliminate all traces of Jewish influence. In this, as Kirkpatrick recounts, the Nazis merely picked up where the city fathers had left off centuries before. The Church of Our Lady in Nuremberg was built following the destruction of Jewish synagogues on the initiative of Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor between 1352 and 62. During Hitler's reign, Nuremberg's castle as well as the Catholic churches were vastly renovated. Beneath the castle, Hitler ordered the creation of a large bunker to host the best of Europe's art and preserve it with the most modern technology. Hitler's cultural fascination also played an important role in his conquests. Before burning down villages, Nazi soldiers were told to save famous artifacts from churches and bring them to Germany. Thus, the Nazis learned to appreciate certain cultural artifacts more than certain human lives. Hitler also shaped the arts and architecture of the empire and spared no expense to establish universities, museums, and other cultural institutions. Hitler sought to eradicate all Jewishness from German art. Jewish artists were banned and persecuted while Nazi artwork was promoted. All paintings were required to portray Aryan families and European tradition. City renovations followed the architecture of old empire. Music and movies were used to rally nationalism. Hitler's favorite composer was Richard Wagner, his favorite living artist Adolf Ziegler, his favorite architect Albert Speer. He used the works of these three men to spread his anti-Semitic ideology. For most people, what Hitler did is unfathomable. But to comprehend his actions, consider his motives. He believed German culture was under threat. Today, Hitler is known only for starting World War II and exterminating 6 million Jews. His efforts to resurrect the culture of the Holy Roman Empire are forgotten. Remembering only Hitler's cruelty is a mistake. He is one of the best examples of where fanaticism for Holy Roman imperial culture leads.
We have seen about the end-time signs happening in Europe, but there is more. Don't go anywhere, we'll meet you after a short break. Welcome back to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Lord Jesus Christ is coming. We have seen about the end-time signs happening in Europe, and let's continue. Various predominantly Catholic Christian movements over the centuries saw Jews as Christ's primary enemy, which led to waves of persecution. Believers also came to believe that only Christ's prophesied coming millennial rule could eradicate all the Jews from the world.
Hitler's claim of a 1,000-year reign and his promise to extinguish the world's Jewry go hand in hand. Hitler saw himself as the Redeemer to bring about God's rule in the earthly realm.
EU Observer reported von der Leyen as saying, "We need to take further bold steps in the next 5 years towards a genuine European defense union. The European Union needs to be more strategic, more assertive, and more united in its approach to external relations. Germany is unusually supportive of all of this. France has called for a European army multiple times, including near the end of 2018 when relations between Emmanuel Macron and United States President Donald Trump reached a low point. What is new is the most other Western European countries agreed and, most significantly, that Germany agrees, wrote Foreign Policy in an article titled, Europe is ready for its own army. This is one of the few policies that both the Christian Democratic Union and the Social Democratic Party can agree upon, a rarity in German politics these days. Another important takeaway from von der Leyen's speech is her intention to shift the EU decision-making process to a majority voting system, as opposed to the current unanimity system. This would open the path to a faster, more effective decision-making system similar to the United States. Growth at the European level comes at the same time German leaders are urging greater military spending. German Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer warned on Wednesday that without another spending increase, even basic projects will lack funding. An increase in defense spending of $1.9 billion is planned for 2020. The media is echoing these calls for greater German military leadership in Europe. Foreign Policy wrote in another article, European leaders are already thinking about how to cope with a scenario where they face an resurgent empire to the east and a fading and no longer friendly superpower in the west. Under these conditions, a real European army could emerge for the first time. It is evident to many that Russia is rising in the east and cannot be trusted. China's rise factors into this as well. Germany is feeling especially vulnerable these days, wrote the Berlin Policy Journal, amid an economic slowdown, tempting deals from China, and other pressures such as the increasing threat of terrorism. German people and politicians alike are realizing that Germany and Europe needs to be able to stand alone. Increasingly, even the US is being treated as a dangerous competitor. Take Google. For example, a Paris court approved fines of around $1.1 billion on September 12 after a lengthy investigation. This comes in the wake of tightening internet privacy laws, which von der Leyen and her commissioners fully and unapologetically support. Margrethe Vestager, the competition commissioner and one of the European Commission's vice presidents, is known for her aggressive stance towards American tech companies. She has already leveled fines at Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. With her appointment, the logical conclusion to the combination is that these investigations will increase, wrote the Berlin Policy Journal. Von der Leyen's technical sovereignty comment also signals that she will put for the EU to develop alternatives to US technical products. Another commissioner to watch is Joseph Borrell, as the leader of the Commission for a Stronger Europe in the World. He is known as the hawkish character who once called Russia our old enemy. He will undoubtedly push for greater militarization. Pressure to militarize grows stronger as America withdraws. The formation of the European army is consequential to the reality of national sovereignty for the nation-states of Europe as the withdrawal of the US empire from the continent is, wrote Foreign Policy. Germany and much of the Western European is getting on board with the notion of a unified military, something von der Leyen, her commissioners, German politicians, and the media are pushing for. Europe seems like a responsible, even overly cautious, global actor. It seems to promote culture. It seems to champion humanitarian causes. It seems to be the likeliest bulwark of stability and sanity in a fast-moving and increasingly dangerous world. Its unification is viewed positively by most people. But the history and prophecy tells us to be wary of German-dominated Europe, and especially wary of the European army. The world is ready to take a chance on a stronger, more assertive Europe. It will get more than it bargained for.
This truth becomes all the more important when you understand that the Holy Roman Empire was prophesied to rise 7 times and that one of these resurrections is yet to come. Revelation chapter 17 depicts it as a mighty beast, a political military power ridden by a great war, a symbol of powerful false church. There is yet one more resurrection coming before God will end it forever.
Concerning the leader of this prophesied last resurrection, the Bible foretells that at one point, then its mind changes and he transgresses. He commits offenses, ascribing this power to his God. This prophesied last leader will also be steeped in Europe's culture. The next dictator will be much more sophisticated, much more cultured, and he is going to fight Christ.
All these show that what is mentioned in the Bible that are going to take place in the end times are taking place in our lifetime. We are living in the last days. Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to tune into Science Lab next time.
Before we end the show, we would like to ask you a question from this episode. What was the book written by Adolf Hitler? Option A, Mein Kampf. Option B, Das Kapital. And option C, My Experiments with Truth.
Send us your correct answer to our email address sciencelab@angeltv.org. If you have missed any of the episode, don't worry. You can watch it again and again in our Science Lab YouTube page. But don't forget to like, share, comment on the video.
And also ask your friends and relatives to watch the Science Lab so that they will know that we are living in the last days. Remember, signs are happening because Lord Jesus Christ is coming. Maranatha.